I finally blew up decades of family BS over a broken washing machine, and now they say I've destroyed everything. The smell of mom's over-browned roast beef filled the air, thick and slightly greasy, clinging to the back of my throat. It was Sunday dinner, the weekly ritual I'd come to dread more than a root canal without anesthetic. Across the table, my older brother, Leo, was meticulously picking the crispy edges off a Yorkshire pudding, his eyes darting around like he was expecting someone to snatch it away. My dad was reading the local paper, occasionally grunting in response to Mom's nonstop monologue about Mrs. Henderson's prize-winning petunias and the scandal involving the church bake sale funds. Apparently, someone used margarine instead of butter in the shortbread. The horror. And me? I was just trying to survive until dessert, gripping my fork like a weapon against the inevitable. It always came. Usually between the main course and the apple crumble. The ask. Alex, honey, Mom started, her voice shifting into that overly sweet, slightly wheedling tone that set my teeth on edge. My stomach clenched. Here we go. You know Leo's washing machine finally gave up the ghost this week. I kept my eyes on my plate, pushing mashed potatoes into a defensive wall around my remaining slice of beef. Yeah, he mentioned it. He hadn't mentioned it so much as launched into a 20-minute sob story over the phone yesterday, complete with dramatic sighs and implications that his life was basically over because he might have to visit a laundromat like a common peasant. Well, Mom continued, dabbing her mouth with a napkin. He's found a really good deal on a slightly used one, scratch and dent, you know? But he's just a little bit short. Timing couldn't be worse, bless him. Leo looked up, adopting his best kicked puppy expression. Yeah, Al, it's a nightmare. Landlord's already giving me grief about the noise the old one made on its last spin cycle. This one's super quiet, apparently. And only. He paused for dramatic effect, $600. 600. Just like that. My breath hitched. It wasn't the biggest ask ever, not by a long shot in the grand tapestry of Leo's financial emergencies, but something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the way he said only 600, as if it were pocket change. Maybe it was the fact that I'd just, finally, after years of scrimping and saving and working soul-crushing overtime, managed to put together a down payment for a tiny condo, a fact I hadn't even shared with them yet because I knew it would immediately become Leo's emergency fund in their eyes. Maybe it was just the cumulative weight of 30 years of being the responsible one, the bailer-outer, the family fixer. No, I said. The word hung in the air, heavy and alien. Silence descended, broken only by the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway, a sound I usually found comforting but which now sounded like a countdown timer. Mom blinked, apparently thinking she'd misheard. Sorry, dear? What was that? I said no, I repeated, looking up and meeting her gaze directly for maybe the first time during one of these conversations. My voice was steadier than I felt. I can't. I don't have $600 to spare for Leo's washing machine. Leo scoffed, dropping the puppy act instantly. Oh, come on, Alex. Don't be like that. You know you're good for it. You always land on your feet. Maybe I land on my feet because I don't spend money I don't have, I retorted, the sharpness in my tone surprising even myself. Dad lowered his paper, peering over the top of his reading glasses. His usual expression of mild disinterest was replaced with a frown. Alex, don't talk to your brother like that. He's having a tough time. He's always having a tough time, Dad. The dam inside me didn't just crack, it exploded. Years of suppressed resentment, frustration, and sheer exhaustion flooded out. When isn't he having a tough time? When isn't there some emergency? A car repair? Rent? A can't-miss business idea that evaporates overnight along with the investment? A surprise medical bill for something that could have been prevented? And now a washing machine? It never ends. Mom gasped, placing a hand over her chest dramatically. Alexandra Marie. How can you be so callous? This is your brother. And I'm his sibling, not his personal ATM. I slammed my fork down on the table, the clatter echoing unnervingly loud. I work hard for my money. Really hard. Remember all those double shifts? Missing holidays? Eating ramen noodles so I could build up some savings? That money isn't just there for Leo to dip into whenever he feels like it. When does it stop? When do you stop expecting me to pick up the pieces? Leo pushed his chair back, scraping it loudly against the polished floorboards. His face was red. You think I like asking? You think I enjoy this? Things happen, Alex. Things I can't control. Like what, Leo? Like quitting your job because your boss looked at you funny? Like spending your rent money on whatever it was last month? Like deciding that learning to budget is beneath you? Each word was fueled by years of silent observation, of biting my tongue while they all enabled him. That's enough. Dad's voice boomed, the dad voice rarely used but always effective. Usually. Leo is family. We help family. End of story. You've always helped before, Alex. What's different now? Got yourself a fancy new life that's too good for your own flesh and blood? That was the accusation that always stung the most, that my attempts at building a stable life for myself were somehow a betrayal of them. As if my success was inversely proportional to Leo's struggles, and therefore, my fault. What's different, I said, my voice trembling slightly now, not with fear but with rage and a weird sense of liberation, is that I'm done. I'm done funding this. I'm done enabling him. And I'm done letting you two guilt me into it. Mom started crying, actual tears streaming down her face. But he needs it, Alex. How will he wash his clothes? He could lose his job if he looks unprofessional. You wouldn't want that on your conscience, would you? The emotional blackmail, swift and practiced. Usually, this was the point where I'd cave, worn down by the tears, the guilt, the sheer exhaustion of fighting. But not today. He can go to a laundromat, I said, my voice cold. Like millions of other people do. Or he can figure out how to budget for a repairman. Or maybe, just maybe, he can prioritize things like essential appliances over whatever else he spends his money on. You have no idea what you're talking about, Leo shouted, fists clenched. You sit there in your perfect little life judging me. My life isn't perfect, Leo, I shot back. It's just planned. It's budgeted. It's the result of sacrifices I made, sacrifices you never seemed willing to consider. Remember when Grandma gave us each that $1,000 for graduation? What did you do with yours? Gone in a week on that trip to Vegas you couldn't miss. What did I do? Put it straight into a savings account, the start of the fund I painstakingly built so I wouldn't have to come crawling to Mom and Dad every time something went wrong. The air crackled with tension. Mom was sobbing openly now. Dad looked furious, his jaw tight. Leo looked like he might actually hit me. I think, I said, pushing my own chair back slowly, my legs feeling shaky, that I should go. Don't you dare walk away, young lady. Mom wailed. We haven't finished dinner. We haven't resolved this. There's nothing to resolve, I said, gathering my purse from the floor beside my chair. My hands were shaking. My answer is no. For the washing machine. For the next thing. And the thing after that. I'm out. I can't do it anymore. So that's it? Dad's voice was low, dangerous. You're just cutting your brother off? Your family? I looked at him, then at Mom's tear-streaked face, then at Leo's furious one. The weight of their collective expectation, their disappointment, their anger, it was crushing. But beneath it, a tiny spark of defiance flickered, growing stronger. I'm not cutting anyone off, I said quietly. I'm just drawing a line. A boundary. For my own sanity. For my own future. I paused, took a deep breath. Maybe it's time Leo learned to stand on his own 2 feet. And maybe it's time you two let him. Without waiting for a response, I turned and walked out of the dining room, through the familiar hallway with its gallery of slightly askew family photos, ironically, most featuring a grinning Leo, and out the front door into the cool evening air. The door clicked shut behind me, a sound of finality that echoed in the sudden quiet. I leaned against my car for a moment, gulping in air, my heart pounding like a drum against my ribs. I half expected one of them to come storming out after me, yelling, pleading, demanding I come back. But nothing happened. Just the chirping of crickets and the distant hum of traffic. It felt unreal. Like I'd just detonated a bomb in the middle of my own life. Part of me was terrified. Part of me felt strangely, exhilaratingly free. Driving home, the scene replayed in my head, over and over. Had I been too harsh? Was Dad right? Was I just being selfish? The guilt gnawed at me, a familiar companion. But this time, it was mixed with something else, a fierce, protective instinct towards the life I was trying to build, the future I was trying to secure. This wasn't a sudden explosion, not really. It was the culmination of years, decades even. Growing up, Leo was always the charming, impulsive one, the one who could talk his way out of trouble, the one Mom and Dad doted on, even when he screwed up. I was the quiet, responsible one. The good student. The one who followed the rules, who never caused any trouble. It wasn't that they didn't love me, I don't think. It was just different. Leo demanded attention, and they gave it. I didn't, so they didn't. My role became the reliable backup, the safety net. It started small. Covering for him when he snuck out past curfew. lending him lunch money he never repaid, doing his chores when he forgot. In high school, it escalated. He wrecked Dad's car, joyriding with friends. I overheard the hushed arguments, Mom pleading, Dad initially furious but eventually relenting. They paid for the repairs, told everyone he'd swerve to avoid a deer. Leo faced minimal consequences, maybe a week of grounding he easily talked his way out of. Meanwhile, I was meticulously saving my babysitting money for driving lessons, terrified of making even the smallest mistake behind the wheel. Then came college. Leo flunked out after 2 semesters at the state university they'd proudly sent him to. He claimed the professors were biased, the workload unreasonable. The reality, which I pieced together from reluctant snippets and overheard phone calls, involved skipping classes, partying nonstop, and generally treating it like an extension of high school. They brought him home, expressed disappointment, but then quickly pivoted to finding him a suitable job, something that wouldn't crush his spirit. He drifted between entry-level positions, quitting or getting fired after a few months each time, always with a dramatic story of injustice or misunderstanding. I, meanwhile, worked my way through community college and then transferred to a 4-year university, juggling classes with 2 part-time jobs. I took out loans, applied for scholarships, lived incredibly frugally. When I graduated, magna cum laude, they threw a small party. It was nice, but overshadowed by the fact that Leo had just been let go from his latest job, selling dodgy security systems door to door, and needed help making rent. My graduation gift from them was $100 and a gentle suggestion that maybe I could help Leo out, just this once, until he got back on his feet. Just this once. That phrase became the soundtrack to my 20s. There was the time he needed money for a guaranteed investment opportunity with a friend, some vague tech startup. I was saving for a desperately needed new laptop for my own freelance work. Mom called me daily, relaying Leo's increasingly frantic pleas. Dad chimed in with, he seems really excited about this one, Alex. Maybe this is his big break. I gave in, lending him $1,500 I couldn't really afford. The startup, predictably, vanished without a trace within a month. Leo was devastated. I was eating instant noodles for dinner again. He never paid me back, of course. The subject was never raised again, except maybe as a cautionary tale about unlucky breaks. There was the car. Always the car. Leo seemed incapable of maintaining a vehicle. Tires blew, engines sputtered, transmissions died. Each time, there was a frantic call. Each time, Mom and Dad would sigh about his bad luck. Each time, the pressure would mount on me. He needs the car for work, Alex. Even when he didn't have a job. How will he get around? Maybe you could just lend him enough for the deductible? You're so good with money, maybe you could find him a good deal on repairs? I paid for tow trucks. I covered repair bills. I even co-signed a loan for a slightly less ancient used car once, a decision that gave me anxiety hives for months until, miraculously, he managed to make the payments, or maybe Mom and Dad were secretly covering them, I never knew for sure. My own life milestones were often footnotes to Leo's latest crisis. When I got my first real career track job, the celebration dinner was cut short because Leo called saying he'd lost his wallet and needed money wired immediately. When my long-term boyfriend, Mark, and I broke up, a genuinely painful experience for me, Mom's main contribution was to wonder aloud if Mark might have any job leads for Leo. It was like my life only existed in relation to how it could serve or support my brother. I tried setting boundaries before. Soft ones. Leo, I really can't afford it this month. Mom, Dad, I think he needs to figure this out himself. But they were masters of wearing me down. The guilt trips were deployed with surgical precision. Don't you care about your brother? Family helps family, Alex. That's just what we do. It's only a small amount for you, but it means the world to him. Think how you'd feel if you were in his position. They'd tag team me, Mom with the emotional appeals, Dad with the pronouncements of familial duty. Leo would call separately, alternating between pathetic pleading and indignant anger that I wasn't immediately leaping to his rescue. Eventually, exhausted and feeling impossibly selfish, I'd give in. Every single time. The pattern was deeply ingrained. They saw Leo's struggles as external forces acting upon him, bad luck, difficult bosses, the unfairness of the world. They saw my relative stability not as the result of hard work and responsible choices, but as luck, or perhaps an unfair abundance that I was obligated to share. My role was clear, I was the capable one, the fallback plan, the emergency fund. Leo's role was to be, well, Leo. Charming, flawed, and perpetually in need of rescue. My partner, Sam, saw it immediately. We met a couple of years ago, and from the start, They were gently questioning the dynamic. Are you sure you have to pay for that? Don't you think Leo should be handling his own bills? Your parents put a lot of pressure on you, don't they? Initially, I was defensive. You don't understand, I'd say. It's just how my family is. But Sam's perspective planted seeds of doubt. They weren't judgmental, just logical. Seeing the situation through their eyes made the dysfunction painfully clear. Sam never pushed me, but their quiet support, their validation that it was okay to say no, was crucial. They were the first person who made me feel like my needs mattered as much as Leo's perceived ones. The condo down payment. That was the secret fuel for tonight's explosion. For years, I dreamed of having my own space, a place that was truly mine, not just a rental I could barely afford after subsidizing Leo. I'd worked relentlessly, taking on extra projects, freelancing on weekends, cutting back on everything non-essential. Every dollar saved felt like a victory, a step towards independence. Telling my family felt impossible. I knew, instinctively, that my savings wouldn't be seen as my achievement, but as a resource they could tap into. Oh, Alex, that's wonderful. Now you can definitely help Leo with that deposit he needs. I could practically hear the conversation in my head. So I kept it quiet, planning to tell them only after the sale was final, the papers signed, the money irrevocably spent on my future. But the washing machine request, coming now, felt like a direct threat to that future. $600 wasn't just $600. It was $600 less for closing costs, for furniture, for the inevitable unexpected expenses of homeownership. It was another dip into my resources to fix his problem, perpetuated by their expectations. And suddenly, the thought of sacrificing even one more piece of my hard-won stability for the black hole of Leo's needs felt utterly unbearable. When I got back to my apartment, I poured myself a glass of water, my hand still shaking slightly. The silence felt huge. Usually, after a tense Sunday dinner, my phone would buzz within the hour, Mom checking if I got home okay, subtly reinforcing the guilt, or Leo testing the waters with a casual text that ignored the earlier conflict. Tonight, nothing. Just silence. I texted Sam, it finally happened. I said no. Big time. It was ugly. Their reply came back almost instantly, OMG. Are you okay? Proud of you, but also worried. Call me when you can talk? Talking to Sam helped solidify my resolve. Laying it all out, the years of enabling, the constant pressure, the sheer unfairness of it, made my anger feel righteous instead of just petty. Sam didn't say I told you so, just listened, validated my feelings, and reminded me that setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's necessary for self-preservation. They're going to try everything, you know, Sam warned gently. The guilt, the anger, maybe even playing the victim or pretending it never happened. I know, I sighed. I'm expecting it. The first salvo came the next morning. A text from Mom. Alexandra, your father and I are deeply hurt and disappointed by your behavior last night. You were incredibly cruel to your brother, who is already struggling. We raised you better than this. Family is supposed to support each other, through thick and thin. You need to apologize to Leo immediately and make things right. Make things right. Translation, give him the damn money. I stared at the text, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Part of me, the deeply conditioned part, wanted to type out an apology, make excuses, smooth things over. But the memory of that brief, exhilarating moment of freedom outside their front door held me back. I typed, deleted, typed again. Finally, I settled on, Mom, I stand by what I said. I love Leo, but I can't keep bailing him out financially. It's not helping him in the long run, and it's hurting me. My decision is final. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. My heart hammered against my ribs. Her reply was swift and icy. I don't understand you anymore, Alex. You've changed. It must be that new life you're so proud of making you forget where you came from. Ouch. That one stung, hitting the old insecurity right on the head. But I didn't reply. Next came Dad. No text, just a voicemail. His voice was heavy with disappointment, the patriarch laying down the law. Alex. Your mother is beside herself. You really upset her. And Leo? Well, he's taking it hard. Look, I know you work hard, but family is family. This isn't about the money, not really. It's about loyalty. It's about being there for each other. You need to think long and hard about the message you're sending. Call your brother. Fix this. Again, fix this. The implication was clear, the problem was my refusal, not Leo's chronic irresponsibility or their enabling of it. Fixing it meant reverting to the status quo. I deleted the voicemail without responding. Then came Leo. His approach was different. First, a barrage of angry texts. Seriously, Alex, WTF? You really screwed me over. Mom and Dad are furious with you. Guess you think you're too good for us now, huh? Don't expect me to be there for you next time you need something. The irony of that last one almost made me laugh. When the angry texts got no response, he shifted tactics. The victim approach. Look, Al, I get you're mad or whatever. But I'm really in a bind here. Laundromat costs a fortune, plus carrying wet clothes on the bus? Seriously? Just need a little help this one time. I'll pay you back first chance I get, promise. The familiar promise. Utterly meaningless. I ignored these texts too. Silence descended again for a day or two. It was an uneasy quiet, pregnant with unspoken tension. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself. I finalized the offer on the condo, the paperwork a welcome, concrete symbol of the future I was fighting for. But the anxiety lingered. Had I gone too far? Had I irrevocably broken my family? Then the flying monkeys were deployed. My Aunt Carol, Mom's sister, called. She was usually bubbly and cheerful, but her tone was somber. Alex, honey? Your mom called me. She's just devastated. Said there was a bit of a disagreement? Hi, Aunt Carol, I said warily. Yeah, you could say that. Well, she's worried sick about Leo. You know how he struggles. And your mom. She just wants everyone to be happy and get along. Maybe you could just smooth things over? For her sake? Aunt Carol, I love Mom, but smoothing things over means me giving Leo money I can't spare, again. I've explained my reasons. I can't keep doing it. There was a pause. Oh. Well. Your mother didn't mention the money part specifically. Just that you were being difficult. You know, family is so important, dear. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices. I've been making sacrifices for years, Aunt Carol, I said, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice. This time, I have to put my own needs first. The conversation ended awkwardly. I knew she'd report back to Mom, probably with a sympathetic headshake about how difficult I'd become. The next week was a strange mix of relief and grief. Relief because my phone wasn't ringing with demands or sob stories. Relief because my bank account remained untouched by familial obligations. Relief because I felt lighter. Like I'd shed a heavy, suffocating weight. But there was grief, too. Grief for the family I wished I had, the supportive, non-transactional relationships I craved. Grief for the fact that my standing up for myself had caused such a rift. Sunday rolled around, and the lack of the obligatory dinner invitation felt like a gaping hole, both welcome and sad. I missed the familiar rhythm, even the annoying parts, in a weird way. I missed the version of my parents that existed outside the context of enabling Leo, Mom's slightly goofy sense of humor, Dad's surprising knowledge of obscure historical facts. Had I lost all of that too? Leo escalated things further. He posted vague, passive-aggressive stuff on social media. Things like, sometimes the people you'd take a bullet for are the ones behind the trigger. And funny how some people forget where they came from once they get a little success. Hashtag family means nothing to some. Hashtag loyalty is rare. He didn't tag me, but it was obviously directed at me. Mutual friends awkwardly liked the posts or sent me confused messages asking if everything was okay. It was humiliating. I blocked him on social media. Not worth the aggravation. A couple of weeks after the initial blow-up, Mom tried a different tack, love bombing. She sent me a link to an article she thought I'd find interesting for work. She texted me a picture of the cat. She even baked my favorite cookies and left them on my doorstep with a note, thinking of you, honey. Love, Mom. No mention of the fight, no mention of Leo. I felt a pang of guilt, a flicker of hope. Maybe she understood? Maybe we could find a new way forward? I texted back a simple, thank you for the cookies. Her response came quickly. You're welcome, sweetie. Glad you like them. By the way, poor Leo is still struggling with that washing machine situation. The stress is really getting to him. His landlord is making threatening noises now. I know you said no before, but maybe you could reconsider? Even a little bit would help him enormously. We're all so worried. And there it was. The cookies weren't an apology or an olive branch. They were bait. A softening up tactic before circling back to the original demand. My brief flicker of hope died, replaced by a weary resignation and a renewed surge of anger. I didn't reply to that text. Or the similar ones that followed over the next few days. The final piece of paperwork for my condo came through. I signed the papers, my hand steady this time. Walking out of the lawyer's office, keys in hand, I felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment, tinged with sadness. This huge milestone, this thing I'd worked towards for so long, was something I couldn't fully share with the people who were supposed to be my biggest cheerleaders. I told them, of course. I sent a group text. Just wanted to let you know I bought a condo. Moving in next month. Dad replied almost immediately, where did you get the money for that? Not congratulations, not excitement. Just suspicion. Mom's reply, oh, Alex, that's wonderful news. A condo. My goodness. Quite an expense. Does this mean you definitely can't help Leo out at all, then? Leo's response? Silence. Utter, complete silence. That was the moment I knew, definitively, that I'd done the right thing. Their reactions laid bare the transactional nature of our relationship, at least from their perspective. My success wasn't something to celebrate, it was either a resource to be tapped or a reason for suspicion and implicit criticism of Leo. Moving into my own place was liberating. Arranging furniture, painting walls, a hideous beige became a calming blue, stocking my own fridge without worrying about someone else's emergency, it felt incredible. Sam helped me move, their presence a constant source of quiet support. Friends came over for a housewarming, bringing wine and laughter and genuine happiness for me. It felt like building a new kind of family, one based on mutual respect and celebration, not obligation and guilt. The lack of contact from my parents and brother continued, mostly. There were sporadic guilt trip texts from Mom, usually centered around holidays or birthdays approaching. It won't be the same without you. Leo is feeling very down, maybe a call from his sister would cheer him up? Dad remained silent. Leo remained silent. I realized the silence wasn't just an absence of conflict, it was an absence of connection. And while the conflict was exhausting, the connection, however flawed, was something I still mourned. I found myself wondering about them. Was Leo okay? Were Mom and Dad managing? Old habits die hard. I started seeing a therapist. Not just because of the family blow-up, but because I realized how deeply ingrained these patterns were, how much my sense of self-worth had been tied to being the good, responsible daughter and sister, even when it was detrimental to my own well-being. Therapy helped me unpack the guilt, understand the dynamics of enabling, and reinforce my right to set boundaries. It helped me see that their reaction was about their own issues, their own inability to cope with Leo's problems or their role in perpetuating them, rather than a reflection of my worth or selfishness. My therapist asked me once if I regretted how I handled it, the explosion at Sunday dinner. Sometimes, I admitted. I wish I could have done it more calmly. Maybe written a letter. Maybe had individual conversations. Exploding like that. It felt uncontrolled. And maybe it hurt them more than necessary. But did calmer methods work in the past? She asked gently. No, I conceded. They always wore me down. Sometimes, she said, an explosion is the only way to clear the debris. It's messy, but it forces a change that quiet requests couldn't achieve. It's been about 6 months now since that Sunday dinner. The silence from my family is mostly consistent. Mom occasionally sends texts that are superficially normal, asking about my job, commenting on the weather, but there's always an undercurrent, a waiting for me to cave, to apologize, to offer help. I keep my replies polite but brief, maintaining the boundary. I haven't seen any of them in person since that day. Leo, according to the grapevine, a cousin who tries to stay neutral, eventually got a washing machine. Either a friend helped him, or Mom and Dad scraped the money together somehow. He apparently complains constantly about how I abandoned him in his hour of need, painting me as the cold-hearted villain of the family saga. My life is quieter, more peaceful, definitely more financially stable. My condo feels like a sanctuary. My relationship with Sam is stronger than ever. My friendships feel more central to my life. I sleep better. The constant, low-grade anxiety about the next inevitable family financial crisis has evaporated. But there's still a scar. A sadness that lingers. I see families interacting, laughing together, supporting each other unconditionally, or at least, appearing to, and I feel a pang of loss. I wonder if we'll ever find our way back to some kind of relationship, one with healthier boundaries and mutual respect. Or if that explosion burned the bridges completely. Sometimes I wonder if they'll ever understand why I did it. That it wasn't about the $600, or the washing machine. It was about the pattern. It was about the expectation. It was about the fact that my role in the family had become money and nothing else. It was about needing to save myself because no one else was going to. I don't regret saying no. I don't regret drawing the line. My only regret, maybe, is that it took me so long, and that it had to happen in such a messy, explosive way. I grieve the relationship I thought I had, or wished I had, but I'm slowly, tentatively, building a life where my needs matter, where my boundaries are respected, and where family isn't synonymous with obligation. It's lonely sometimes, this path, but it feels authentic. It feels like mine. So, Reddit, I guess I'm putting this out here because it's still raw, still something I grapple with daily. Was I the asshole for finally cutting off the financial pipeline and refusing to enable my brother, even if it meant blowing up my relationship with my entire immediate family? What would you have done in my shoes?